according to what I was going cross country for. You know, you're talking about a race car. I guess I'd still go with a 72, 73 Dodge. It was a very comfortable car, a good looking car, and you know, I just loved the car. So probably if I had to pick a car, I'd take it.
Richard, you forgot to add that you done it in 1953.
Yeah, we done it, but we done it with a truck. No, we done it with a car, didn't we?
You done it with a car.
In 1953, I drove a Dodge out there. Yeah.
But for me in 1958, me and Maurice drove Lee's 57 Oldsmobile out there because he was running for the championship. And he ran Trenton on Friday, Trenton, New Jersey, and then flew to California and ran on Sunday. And that's one of the most memorable trips I've ever been on in my life. And we could talk for an hour on
driving a race car out there now would be a little bit different.
Yeah, you'd have more gears to shift, wouldn't you?
You know, winning a championship back in the day wasn't near as big a deal as it is today. We won a championship, and the deal is Daddy'd already won 3 of them. So in '64, we won our first championship, and it was just something that just came along. I don't know that we looked at trying to run the race and trying to win a championship. We just run the race trying to win races, and when it was all added up at the end of the year, we wound up winning the championship. So the first one was no really bigger than the seventh one.
You know, Richard covered it. That I was around, and of course Richard was too, and Maurice when Lee won his. And then if you won it one weekend back in the day, the next season started the next weekend, and that there was no time for celebrations or nothing. I guess there's a little payoff for the winner and everything, and it was important to win the championship, but like Richard said, we didn't have time to celebrate and have big dinners and everything else. We was getting ready for the next week.
You know, what if is a big deal. You know, what if I'd have run and never blown a motor, or never blown a tire, or somebody else would have had trouble. What if I'd had a good crew chief? You know, how many races could I have won, or how many I just lucked into? So, you know, taking anybody and saying what if is so much fantasy you can't even think about it.
You know, he covered it. If he had a good crew chief, ain't no telling what he would have done. But it's hard you can't explain it, because look at what Denny Hamlin's done, as good as he's been in not winning championships. So until it happens, you can't put it in your pocket.
The day's drivers could have went back. Some of them could, some of them couldn't, because they would have grown up in a different society. If they had to go from this society to go back to, no computers, no radios in the car, no power steering, no air conditioning, it would be hard for them to adapt. And it'd be just about as hard for the people that come along with me to adapt to what's going on today. But if you lived in those particular years, then you adapted to it. So, everything kind of equals itself out.
Richard covers it pretty good. But I think the big thing from today's world to back then would the size of the drivers. No disrespect to them or nothing about that, and the strength of them. The power steering and the drum brakes and the heat and everything, they just couldn't have fought those big heavy cars at that time. And I don't know, it just, But one thing that amazes me too is I know how many years Richard raced because he started when they didn't let him run till he was 21-year-old. But when they do the background on some of these drivers, they've probably raced longer than Richard had because they some of them, I guess, started in their diapers. I don't know. I'm exaggerating, but I hear all kind of weird stories about 5-year-old and 6 years old and something like that. And now some of them are in their 20s, so that's a long time.
I don't believe that really happened. Joe won a race down there for us, but as far as taking the engine out of one car and putting it in another, I don't never remember that. I do remember we was down there one year and we blowed 2 or 3 engines, and on Saturday evening, my brother Maurice took pieces of all 3 of those engines and built the engine for the car for Sunday, and we started the race not knowing anything about the engine and wound up winning the race. But that's the only really engine problem I think we ever had down there.
No, that didn't happen like that. But Joe did win the race. It was a car that we took care of here, and it's sponsored by Hayes Jewelry. And me and the rest of Richard's crew pitted him that Saturday and kind of outfoxed him a little bit on the last pit stop with, I think, 2 tires. I forget exactly how it won, but he won the race. And but what year was it down there we changed so many motors, Richard?
I don't know.
I know we changed. I believe the number we changed 9 times, and it wasn't that they was blowed up, but we'd put a practice motor in, a qualifying motor, put the race motor in to see if it had leaks, and then put a practice motor back in. But you was down there sometime 10 days, and it such a different world.
There's too daggum many of them, I guess. It's really hard to say. I guess probably the most famous one was 1976 when Pearson and myself came down to the last lap deal, and we spun out together, and he wound up winning the race. Of any of the races that I run, I probably regret that or feel bad about it, or wish that hadn't happened. And but it did happen, and it made history. I guess we put it that way.
Yeah, that one still shows up on television in the highlights. But for me, I don't know. Richard told me one time at Michigan, right in the middle of 3 and 4, coming to the checkered, racing Pearson, he said, we're going to beat him today. And when we got to the finish line, we beat him about a fender. So, but there's been some close ones at, racing Pearson, but a lot of people don't know that they run first and second to each other 63 times, and it wound up about even. And that's just unheard of in any business or sport. I don't know what you want to call it.
Well, to begin with, my mother took care of all the books,
And the money.
Well, she took care of the money. Then she kept all the books and stuff. And, if we needed something special, we had to sort of talk to her, see if we could get the money to do it. And then, when Dad got hurt in 61 at Daytona, we came back, and then I kind of tried to keep the books for a little while, but Linda always kept our books. I never knew if we had any money or not money, but she took care of the books, took care of the money, took care of the kids, took care of all the insurances and taxes and all that stuff. And so Mother done the same thing for Daddy. So the women left the men up to do their job, and the women had a job to do.
Yeah. My wife, I used to get a check and she could sign my name and get it cashed. Now you go to the bank and you can't even cash it if you got proof who you are, hardly. But my wife takes care of all the money, and I like I said, I don't even know where we got any money or not. I guess we do. She pays for everything we do. So I don't know. It's and the only time I knowed anything about how much sponsorship money or anything that come into Petty's was when we was on our way to Chicago in 1972 and talked to Andy Granatelli, and we got enough. You got enough money sponsorship for the whole year, which would not even buy dinner for the crew now. So it's been a long ride.
Probably the fastest I've ever been was in a Superbird, and probably at Talladega, because the track was a little bit bigger in Charlotte than Daytona, and probably somewhere close to 220 mile an hour. And it was one of the deals where you didn't realize the difference between 190 and 200 and 210, 220. You adapt to that speed, and you don't realize how fast you're going. The only reason you ever felt like he's going fast is when you hit something, then you realize he's going too fast.
Richard, you remember Talladega in 1969? We had a Ford that year, and the track actually opened before it was ready, and the surface wasn't ready, and y'all was tearing tires up in 2 or 3 laps. I don't think we ever tore a tire up, but we was pushing 200 mile an hour then.
Right.
And I think you qualified 198, only running 2 laps. And if anybody could run 3 laps, it was 200 mile an hour, because they kept gaining speed back in the day like that. But the drivers certainly didn't want to go out down there and run.
No, I wasn't mad at nobody. And had to be mad. I guess I had to be mad at myself for the thing happening. But Pearson always said that, I knocked him out. But if I was in front and he's behind, how can I knock him out? So I always looked at it that it wasn't my fault, it was his fault.
You're bringing that up again. It's I knowed it was going to be close, and I believe Richard told me on the radio, he said, I don't know how it's going to come out when we took the white flag. And we come around, and I went up towards we was pitting below the start-finish line. I went up towards the start-finish line, and then they come by me just spinning and everything. But what people don't know is Pearson was headed straight for the wall, and Joe Frazan hit him and turned him back towards the start-finish line. And the crew, I didn't get there, but the crew went out and pushed Richard across the start-finish line. And so few people know this, they took a lap away from Richard, but he still run second because Benny was third and he was a lap down. Now, if Benny hadn't have been a lap down, I don't know what NASCAR would have done, but Richard run second to him.